So, dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the FTTH Council Europe, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this interesting panel for this afternoon. We will touch upon various topics and we take a look into the future of the FTTH markets together, as far as towards 2030 and maybe even beyond. My name is Andreas Waber. I'm a board member of the FTTH Council and I'm a CEO of Swiss FibreNet. And today I will act as the moderator of this panel. But now let me introduce my guests, the panel speakers of this afternoon. So I think it's fair to say that we have even a panel of wisdom this afternoon. To really be inspired by looking into the future of our interesting market. And we have quite different competencies joining together here. So we have somebody looking it from a consultancy point of view, somebody from the regulation, technology, network, and even the society impact of fiber activities. Let me introduce Gabriel Moore to you. He's a principal consultant at management consultancy RTD Lidl in Vienna. He actually as well lives with his partner in Vienna. Then we have Erzsébet Fittori. She's executive director at the Smart Networks and Service Joint Undertaking, SNSGU. It's a public-private partnership in Brussels, and Erzsébet lives as well in Brussels together with her 2 kids and the partner. Then we have Gilles Boudron. Gilles is Vice President Wireline Networks Infrastructure at Orange Innovations in Paris. Actually, he does not live in Paris, he lives in Lille, together with his 2 kids. Then we have Paul Nastepan. He's Managing Director of Eurofiber Netherlands. He lives in Utrecht, or near Utrecht, together with his family, 2 kids. And finally, we have Tamara Snell. She is Senior Advisor and Futurist at the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies in Copenhagen, where she's living as well with 2 kids. And she told me that last year she did 1-year trip with her husband and the 2 kids. And we were just exchanging that this must be very inspiring for you. Good. So after the introduction of those 5 panel speakers, we'll now start with Gabriel that will introduce his thoughts on the topic and then followed by the other speakers. Please, Gabriel.
Thank you. All right. Warm welcome from my side. Happy to be here. Happy to have all of you here as well. As already said, Gabriel Moore, working for ArthurD Little. ArthurD Little is a global management consulting company firm. And I'm based in Austria, in Vienna, but as you can see from the map here, the blue footprint is actually where I've been working over the past decade. So really bringing a global perspective also to this panel. And in terms of my focus areas, they are in particular centered around value creation and growth strategies, meaning, for example, operational excellence or diversification projects. It's around business transformation, in particular carve-out activities as well as integration work, and then transaction support, which is heavily focused on commercial and technical due diligences. And with that, I will also give a few insights on the perspectives for 2030. ArthurD Little itself, we're covering the entire value chain when it comes to the FTTH market, when it comes to M&A activities as well. So from strategy definition all the way until exit. And you can see from a few of the project examples that I brought with me that we're quite active in the European market with the different transactions. But I'm not here to talk about my company. I'm rather here to talk about the state 2030, how the situation will look then. And as a starting point, I think it's important to understand certain dynamics of the here and now, meaning what is actually influencing the present. And there are three elements that I would like to highlight. The first one is around inflation. Inflation has spiked during the past couple of years. Now it has already gone down, but obviously still for a lot of companies who made their business plans before COVID and recent developments, the costs are simply on a different level. Same is true in terms of interest rates. No immediate cuts are to be expected. And this obviously also has an impact on consumer confidence in terms of investment and potential penetration rates. And with that in mind, there are quite some players who are actually struggling with delivering their rollout plans, performing on this, as well as the penetration rates. And this gap in particular can be explained by four elements. First one around the cost pressure. So there's a lot happening that I already mentioned before in terms of increasing costs that simply operators need to focus on. Then you have the topic of competition, in particular around, at the moment, infrastructure level. That is both from a smaller player perspective, because it's still an attractive market to actually be in and only operate a regional network, but also from larger players. We have seen also and heard from the CEO panel before, there's quite some dynamics in the market, in particular here in Germany, so all kinds of different dynamics around competitive pressure. There is pressure also from a rollout perspective, because for land grab scenarios, there has been a lot of ambition to do it as fast as possible, and therefore there has simply been a pressure on operational excellence. Some players are basically not going into the direction of demand aggregation, but directly focusing on rollout activities, and this is then obviously also to a certain degree impacting penetration rates. And lastly, obviously also cooperations with local authorities, municipalities, that is very important to have in order to be successful in markets. Going forward, not to go too much into the details, but there are various drivers that will boost also the FTTH market and what operators are looking at. Penetration, we already talked about. Maybe here one point to elaborate a little bit more is in particular around the sales channel activities and potentially also the incentives. I will talk later a bit more about it. We have ARPU growth, how to basically make sure that you can boost by, for example, upgrading the tiers, upselling, but also in terms of passing on some of the inflationary pressure to the next in line. CapEx management, heavily related to rollout activities. We just said before around the operational excellence, that this needs to be mastered in order to have this in check and be in line with the business plans. And then also diversification in the direction of not only considering FTTH as an important market, but often the B2B segment is something that is partially overlooked, depending obviously on the size of the player. So FTTB, FTTT, important elements as well. And lastly, consolidation, very important topic that is simply driving the dynamics in the market as well, in particular in markets that are heavily fragmented. And there is growth to be expected if we look at the overall market. One driver is, for example, the fixed data consumption. that is heavily driven at the moment by video consumption. On average, it's usage on fixed data from 6 to 10 hours per day, and approximately 3 to 4 hours are dedicated to video consumption. Then we have AI developments, which obviously have not only an impact on the requirement for reliable infrastructure, but also drive operational activities that you can improve rollout activity and boost penetration rates. Subsidies and regulation will also play an important role, and copper decommissioning, that you can see how to migrate your customers to FTTH. And with that said, by 2030, there will be a few elements that we will have witnessed. One of them will be around asset reconfiguration, meaning in particular a clear split between ServCo and NetCos. A lot of initiatives in this field have already been taken. There's more to come. Then the topic of consolidation will also be a main driver over the next 6 to 7 years that we will see across markets, and then obviously the upgrades of the different markets. All right.
Very much, Gabriel.
Sorry.
So Erzsébet will be next.
Thank you very much for the kind invitation to the FTTH Council to present the role of fiber envisaged in future 6G networks. Perhaps I will start by a little bit of an introduction into the Smart Networks and Services joint undertaking, which is really an EU research program mandated to drive research and innovation activities, in particular into future 6G networks, but also advanced 5G, and we also have a coordinating role with regard to strategic deployment agendas on 5G networks. So perhaps I would just try to briefly share with you our mission and roadmap. What is the European path envisaged for 6G? Then the 6G vision and the role of fiber foreseen in 6G networks, and then very specific insights into our work program related to optical fiber. The Smart Networks and Services joint undertaking is really the EU's 6G research and innovation program. It is really based on collaboration first of all between the European Commission as the public member and the 6G Industry Association as the private member. This partnership is also reflected in our budget. We are implementing 900 million euros of Horizon Europe budget over the life cycle of the joint undertaking, and that is matched by also 900 million euros of investments by the private side. 6G research and generally research agendas, of course, also often involve and need to involve governments. And for that reason, in our governance system, we have the so-called States Representative Group, which is a strategic advisory body whom we consult on our work program and key strategic considerations for the joint undertaking. We also try to involve stakeholders, of course, in our the development of our work program and the dissemination of the research activities that are being carried out in the context of the SNSJU. And for that, we have also the stakeholders group, which are covering a broad area of different kind of stakeholders, from the vertical industries towards also IoT, specialized trade associations, and so on. And finally, I would also emphasize the role of international cooperation, in particular with like-minded partners. The SNSJU had a dedicated program of cooperating with the United States in 2023, and in our 2024 work program, we have the Republic of Korea and Japan in particular, with whom we are running some parallel projects in mutually interesting domains, for example, like AI. So really, collaboration and partnership is the strategic priority of our program, and it is really the European way of trying to create future technologies which are also interoperable and cater for the needs that are quite diversified across Europe and across different sectors. We take a phased approach, started in 2021, basically building on the results and the ongoing work of the 5G PPPP, which was very much the driving force behind the development and also ultimately standardization of the 5G technology. And then we have as the end point of our research agenda 2030, by which we foresee the development of a full 6G system at a pre-commercial phase, already standardized. A key, actually, do I have a pointer? No, I think I don't. But as you can see on the slide, our work program is quite aligned with international activities. I would highlight 2025, 2027, when international standardization activities regarding 6G are foreseen to start, which will be a key milestone in the development of 6G and a key milestone for Europe to take a very relevant part in the international standardization activities. We focus on a number of key areas, key technology areas. We also call them key enablers of the 6G technology. On the one hand, of course, AI-driven architecture, the radio access network, spectral efficiency, but also very importantly, the topic of today, optical networks, and in particular, the integration of optical networks into the 6G architecture. The 6G technology is foreseen to be very much an integrating or even unifying technology of different existing technologies, fixed, non-terrestrial, wireless, but it is also foreseen to be the first ever native AI-based technology, which will be a real novelty. How is the relationship between 6G and fiber? I think in the very first preparatory discussion that we have had with Andreas was asking, oh, are you going to compete with us? Is 6G a competitive technology compared to FTTH, which I still feel passionate about as the former Director General of the FTTH Council? We see that it is very much a synergistic relationship. It's going to be complementary and synergistic. Fiber will be a very foundational part of the future 6G systems, and a lot of the key performance characteristics of optical fiber will be absolutely critical to deliver on the vision that we foresee for 6G. Maybe just to highlight to the fiber community that we would very much welcome the fiber community to take even a more prominent part in our research projects. And our call for proposals is still open until the 18th of April. So there is still almost 1 month to go to build consortia and come up with relevant proposals. What are the highlights for the SNSJU in 2024? First of all, we are entering a phase where, compared to the very initial research, which is more basic research, we are looking at more advanced, almost pre-standardization type of research, higher technology readiness level research. International collaboration, as I mentioned, is a key priority for us this year. We have 2 lighthouse projects, one which has been, I think, a subject in a lot of previous panels, is related to sustainability. How can we make 6G as a technology more sustainable? And also the role of microelectronics chips in future 6G networks. Artificial intelligence is remaining one of our priority areas, given that 6G will be the first native AI network, and trials with verticals with other sectors, such as automotive, for example, will be also a key part of our work. If you wish to look at and know more about our quite lengthy work program, please do visit our website and look into the call for proposals. There is still some time to go. And just to really show in a very concrete and tangible way that fiber-related research is indeed a very integral part of our work program, here on the slide you can see some of examples, some of the key projects which are already ongoing research activities predominantly focused on the integration of fiber into 6G, but some of them are really looking at specific areas such as how you can make these integrated networks more sustainable or indeed related to IoT. In total, at the moment, we have 63 projects which are ongoing. We expect about 16, 17 more to come from those call for proposals that is open until the 18th of April. And sometimes we do get the question, but are these big European projects more for big companies? No, they are not only for big companies. We have a very specific KPI in our work program, which foresees that 20% of our funding goes to SMEs, with which we are actually successful. In our first call, we had 18%, and then in our second call, 25% of EU funding going to SMEs. This is a very big topic, which I will, of course, be very keen on continue discussing with you, maybe over drinks and also in the Q&A, but I know that my time is up, so I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth, and definitely thank you. We'll definitely deep dive this question, how fiber is related to 6G in the Q&A session. But now let's listen to Gilles. What are his thoughts about fiber and 2030?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to be here. I will start with some introduction about Orange, if you don't know Orange. So, just at a glance, Orange is deployed in 26 countries. We are not doing FTTH on these 26 countries. 26 countries is the mobile network, and we are operating in 17 countries for the FTTH, which is, I mean, quite consequent anyway. And we are operating in mostly in Europe and Middle East, Africa. So we almost have 300 million customers worldwide. Hopefully in 2024, at the end of 2024, we will have reached this symbolic barrier. It's 137 employees worldwide, so quite a big company, but also a lot of challenges to tackle. And this year, for 2023 at least, we announced that we did 44 billion euros in terms of revenue. So let's talk about FTTH. So Orange is number one in Europe in terms of FTTH, and especially in FTTH rollout, fiber rollout. So it's a huge effort that we are doing for years now. It's an investment, an infrastructure investment. It is a lot of money, a lot of capex. We reached the peak of our investment in FTTH in 2021, and so from now on we are, decreasing a bit our investment in FTTH for, basically two reasons. First, because we already achieved a lot of work, and the second reason is also now we need to get the revenue from that infrastructure, and getting revenue from fiber in Europe, it's very, very difficult. It's not the same situation as it is in the US, for those who knows these markets. So we have anyway 15.4 million customers worldwide, so it's a growth of more than 12% for year on year. So we are very proud of that, and we expect still to grow that in the coming years. As I said, 17 countries, and in EU we are 8 countries. We have 8 countries where we are operating FTTH, and we are more than 71 million home passed. So it's a growth also of more than 10% year on year. So even though the investment is a bit decreasing for the coming years, we are still investing a lot. It's still billions of euros that we are spending, and all that is to push and to make sure that Orange will be present on all these countries for the coming years, and of course increasing our revenues and participating to the customer needs, and making sure that they are having the right services that they expect. So, unveiling some point of the discussion that we will have afterwards in terms of FTTH, where do we put our main priorities in Orange considering FTTH? What are our next steps? First, the cost optimization. That's an important point. We are investing a lot. We have revenues which are not that great. Revenues are okay, but that's the ARPU, basically the average revenue per user, which is not as good as we could expect because of the high level of competition that we have in Europe. So we have to work on the cost optimization. We have to work on the monetization of our network, meaning that increasing the bandwidth and having a bit more expensive plans for our customers is not enough to get the revenue, to make it comparable to the level of investment that we are putting on that. So we have to work on new business, on new ARPU with the fiber and the broadband access. We have to work on the quality of experience, and of course manage our carbon footprint. We must make sure that our networks are sustainable for the future, and making sure that that follows our guidance in terms of carbon footprint. So FTTH for us, it's also OLTs. And OLTs is, I would say, the generic multi-fiber access equipment that we have in our networks, meaning that for 5G, for instance, we are using OLTs to connect our cell sites for mobile networks. So that's important. The OLT is a very important piece of our networks. Unveiling a bit of the discussion again, coming on, the XGS-PON is definitely the technology of choice of Orange for the future. So we are going to continue our deployment of this technology. Of course, automatic operations. I don't want to talk about AI, that's a buzzword, okay? There's AI everywhere, so let's talk about automation, because at the end, that's the point, is to make sure that the network is resilient, that it works fine, that, and which is the less expensive. We also work on fund sharing possibilities, opportunities. That's for the wholesale market, meaning that, I mean, we have a big infrastructure, we have a big network, and of course we can sell its capacities to other actors through fund sharing. Fund sharing that also could be a good way to share the investment effort in some countries and make sure that we still have the hand on the infrastructure. And as I said, network monetization, maybe through APIs. APIs are everywhere. We are working a lot on that. Of course, that's the challenge of the mobile network, the 5G networks especially, is to build APIs to make use of the 5G SA standalone capabilities. But I truly think that it should not be only focused on a mobile world. It's also something that we can try to make use on the broadband access. Of course, that's not the philosophy which is usually done in FTTH, but I'm pretty sure that we can work on that and find the right marketing plans to make sure that through APIs we can monetize our networks. So I tried to be quite fast. And okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gilles. Next one will be Paul.
It feels that I'm having a birthday today. And first of all, compliments to all of you for still being here at 4:30 of the day. But this is, of course, the 20th anniversary of the Fibre to the Home Council, and I happen to be the founding president of the Fibre to the Home Council. So I'm so extremely happy to see everybody here so late and so well represented. And we had, in fact, all the presidents this morning on stage, and all of those people are still in the business. And you wonder why. Because, of course, it's the best business to be in. This is telecoms. And if you look at everything that's happening in telecoms, you know, we're talking about AI and stuff like that. That's the reason why we're all still here. This is the most interesting industry that we can all work in, right? You all agree? Yeah. Sure you do. Right. Let me tell you a little bit about Eurofiber. That's the company that I currently work for after I've been working in some other companies, AT&T, Vodafone, MTEL, and lately Access for All before this job. Eurofiber is a little bit older than the Fibre to the Home Council, or a little bit over 20 years. And Eurofiber was a company that really started the idea of open access in the Netherlands. And this is what happens 20 years later. Open access is discussed, it was discussed in many different rooms already today. I witnessed the German discussion on open access, where Deutsche Telekom says, you know, we're completely open and completely offer open access, and Vodafone agrees, and 1&1 agree, and everybody agree. Well, I also agree. I think open access is one of the most important issues, you know, stances to take in the industry to foster growth, to foster a good, healthy development of the business, to make sure that you do it also from a natural resources point of view most efficiently and from a capital point of view. Open access is really the foundation that we have laid also for our company. Eurofiber is a company that is represented in 4 countries now. We started originally, in fact, in Belgium, then we moved to Netherlands. The Netherlands today is now the largest market that we have. But then most of our growth today is, in fact, in France. So we've entered France 2 or 3 years ago, I believe, and that's now one of the fastest countries that we're growing in. And we entered into Germany. Here in Berlin, we have a Fibre to the Home entity, Vattenfall Eurofiber, soon to be renamed Eurofiber, as we bought out Vattenfall, because we do think that there's a lot of business here to be made in Berlin. So here, we're really in Fibre to the Home. In Belgium, we have a joint venture with Proximus, which is also Fibre to the Home. Everything else in Eurofiber is purely B2B. So we are in the large enterprise and in the corporate segments, and we supply, connectivity, dark fiber, that's what we love most, Ethernet, that's what we did afterwards, and internet, all right, that's already getting a little bit high in the stack, but of course, since all of the cloudification is a lot of internet-based, we've also gotten into internet. At this point in time, if you look at the Netherlands, 65% of the mobile traffic goes over our network. That's open access, because we are not in mobile, right? We're just into the basics of the fiber optics. Still, we achieve that type of work, and that is, for all the mobile companies on a network, is a very efficient way of doing it. We have the energy companies, except for one or two, all of them are on a network. We have ministries, we have, I cannot mention the high secure companies, but a lot of the companies that really have a very high demand for security, they are on our network. And then quality is really what stands out in how we do things. We lay cable very deep in the ground. We make sure that we do our maintenance sooner than everybody else to make sure that we maintain that quality. Another part of that quality has to do with ESG. And you can see on the right-hand side, we'll talk about that later, we place high emphasis on ESG, but then I'm not going to speak about much because we will do that later. We also have 10 data centers, and that is increasing. Data centers also an industry that you need to combine with fiber to do it right. And, well, we'll get to some of the other things later. The call that I'm making out to you, and that we will address later in this topic as well, is really, it is our common, it's not only it's really our common goal that I feel, that we must make the B2B, again, the B2B area, digital infrastructures, 100% secure, and in the future, 100% secure is different from where we are today. And I listened to the speech this morning, of course, from Ukraine, then you know that security is a completely different topic if something like that happens to your country. And it needs to be circular. And circular is, again, a little bit different than just the ESG. It's an element of GSG, but circular is a discussion that is sometimes underpinned in comparison to CO2. We'll get to that later as well. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Paul. Now, last but not least, Tamira, please.
And I had the privilege of also presenting already, so I will make it a little bit shorter. But thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this panel. I'm from the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies, and if you did not already be part of the keynote earlier, we are an independent non-profit think tank concerned with actually exploring the future using applied strategic foresight processes and methodologies. We are one of the oldest futures think tanks in the world, depending a little bit about how you define it, but one of two. And we are founded not by the man to your right, that you might already know, but the man to the left, Thorkild Christensen, who was the former finance minister in Denmark and also former OECD Secretary General. He's renowned to have said that if you don't think about the future, you might not have one. So we strongly believe that in order to actually work with potential futures 5-10 years from now, we need to combine not just forecasts and predictions with a more explorative nature and actually build multiple futures. So understanding that when we're positioned here in the present, the future is always multiple. And we also have a say. The future is not passive. We can actually work. We can take actions in order to build preferable futures. We work both with private and public organizations. We also have a UNESCO chair. And our primary ambition is to really advise, equip, and guide decision makers to build futures already today. One of our main or primary frameworks in order to try to navigate plausible futures is these global megatrends. And the global megatrends are global societal currents that will happen, that will occur globally, obviously, but at different times in different locations, they will not develop linearly, and they're interconnected. That means that when we're looking at the FTTH, we will have to actually really look at the external environment as well to understand the implications for this industry. So as you can see already, we have AI that has been touched upon here in the panel already, greater interconnectedness, so how we're really seeing the IoT as well, engineering advances, everything that is really being developed technologically in terms of infrastructure, etc. But then also when we're looking at another external set of megatrends is that we are, economically speaking, becoming more and more of a service economy, a network economy. And we need to understand that also to kind of map future needs and expectations, especially when we look to future consumers. On the other side of things, what will always need to be a part of the equation will definitely be the demographic side. So what shifts are we seeing within society? An aging population, urbanization. We're seeing an increasing behavior within individualization and empowerment, diversification, and also, just to mention one more, a focus on health. Health budgets are rising. How will health be developed digitally also to provide telemonitoring, telemedicine, telehealth at home? So there are many, many things that will actually impact our needs and demands for not only the infrastructure, but also actually being interconnected and having seamless, leading seamless lives. Just a short example in terms of also seeing how these megatrends are interconnected is the smart city of Songdo in South Korea, which was built to really be one of the smartest smart cities. And like you could see on our megatrend framework, urbanization is really one of the key megatrends. Smart cities, smart nations, smart homes. It is becoming a matter of really being as interconnected as possible. And Songdo was developed to be able to deliver just that. Everything from how we could communicate in the best way, how we could interact, how we could handle our trash. However, in the end, what became a real challenge was actually to have people move there. It was not built for people. It was not built for fostering a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of home. So really combining an understanding of external societal shifts and how that will impact on your industry, but also on consumer demand is something that is necessary. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Tamira. So I'm glad that you're all still here. So that means you're interested in the topic of what's the market in 2030. We'll now move into the second part of this panel by deep diving some of the already presented topics of the 5 panelists. And we'll start with you, Gabrielle. You're working as a principal consultant at ADL, and you must have extensive experience in your fiber deployment activities, fiber to the home activities. Can you give us some examples what your clients are asking you in relation to what's coming in the next years into this market?
Yes, very, very happy to do so. And first of all, I think during the previous 30 to 40 minutes, we already heard quite a lot of different topics that we at ADL, we hear on a daily basis and are working with, like, for example, Gilles, you mentioned cost optimization, you mentioned quality of service, you mentioned new business. So these are definitely some of the topics that we experience and that we will continue to experience going forward. And one of the topics I would say that is in particular these days very critical is around the financial situation. So a lot of businesses are worried about meeting their business plans, meeting their targets. So focusing on exactly what are levers in order to boost rollout as well as boost penetration. And the second one, I think this is what I would like to highlight, because there has been a shift in mindset over the past couple of years. It started all with the mindset of really going into a land grab scenario, making sure that you're present in your footprint, making sure that you are the infrastructure there. Because ultimately, if we touch upon the topic of open access, this is really what is important, right? That you are the infrastructure provider in the given footprint. And this is also then how, for example, construction companies have been incentivized by building, by rolling out. What has not, or only to a certain degree, been focused on, okay, how to get additional money in, meaning how to convert a home's past into a paying subscriber. Obviously, companies have done demand aggregation and continuous pre- and post-rollout marketing activities to enhance this. But down the line, I think in particular with the challenges over the past 3 to 4 years, company realized that down the line it's about the EBITDA, how much do we get in, how many homes connected, activated do we have, and the focus is going in this direction. And so there we see a strong engagement of our clients where questions are raised and trying to be understood further. Another topic is closely linked to that, refinancing. A lot of companies out there looking for refinancing because due to increasing inflation, also, for example, approximately 30% of the OPEX and 70% of the CAPEX at least are directly related to inflation. We have the topic of labor shortages. Yesterday in a panel, great discussion about how many experts this industry will actually be lacking in 2030. And these are obviously some elements that already need to be tackled now in order to prevent then the lack of resources in a few years. And then the last topic that I would say is probably one of the largest and where companies are most engaged with and want to understand more is around the topic of consolidation. There are multiple elements how you can actually drive consolidation, what this means in the fiber market. You can talk from a NetCo perspective where you say, okay, you integrate on that front. You can talk from a ServCo perspective. You can have split between those. The demarcation line, very important to understand how to actually split this and then boost the performance by achieving synergies and ultimately coming back to what I started with, the business plan and what ultimately also some of my co-panelists mentioned before. So I would say that this is a portfolio of topics that we hear on a regular basis. Thank you.
Elizabeth, so you told us and showed us what are the topics and the plans of the SNSGU initiative. So could you give us some insights how your studying work will help to kind of structure these FTTH markets in the next coming years? And maybe you can give us some examples on the elements that these studies will help having the markets more developed into the future.
Yes, thank you. So maybe some things that I would highlight are really some of the key elements of the 6G vision that is enshrined in our strategic innovation and research agenda. And these really require technology breakthroughs ultimately in all of the areas that I have highlighted on one of my slides. So first of all, as I mentioned, 6G is foreseen to be an integrating, or if you like, unifying network of the different technologies. And that comes with quite a number of challenges of how to integrate these technologies into a 6G architecture, especially integrating non-terrestrial networks will be a real novelty and a real breakthrough into a terrestrial technology. Secondly, as I also mentioned, this will be the first native AI-based technology. AI will not just run on top of, but also inside the network. Thirdly, departing from the very traditional view of communications networks, 6G is also foreseen to be a sensing network, basically connected sensors everywhere. And then you also need to add to that vision that computing capacity would be inherent in the network. So if you add these elements together, whilst of course we cannot exactly foresee because it is being researched, but it is really foreseen to create a quite disruptive new technology in which a lot of existing technologies or adjacent areas or enablers, if you like, will need to be integrated. Not only fiber. Fiber will be, I think, a very, very key component for the capacity, for the energy efficiency, the latency, all the key benefits of fiber. But I think kind of also in a broader sense, and I think one key area in which our JU is different perhaps from previous research programs is I think an area which has been mentioned virtually by all speakers today is adoption. So what we are called a smart networks and services joint undertaking for a good reason, because in order for a technology to be adopted and adopted relatively quickly, you need actually services, and for these services in a more complex environment that we live and see in the digital world today, you need to nurture ecosystems. And one key area of our research activities is not only the traditional research and innovation, but also experimental infrastructure and large-scale trials. And what we foresee is that it could be these large-scale trials and pilots that could help develop future services and already develop the ecosystems of which the fiber community should absolutely be a very key part.
Thank you very much. Let's move to Gilles. So Gilles, Orange Innovation is leading, hopefully, the shift towards 10G PON networks, and you were already talking about XGS PON developments. Could you elaborate a bit how Orange, or what are the kind of challenges that Orange has with shifting to these technologies? Maybe looking at this point from an operator point of view, but as well from a consumer point of view? So is there really a demand for those high bandwidth technologies?
Yeah, thank you. That's the point. Is there a real demand on 10G capacity? We choose the XGS-PON technology first because it was easy to deploy with existing GPON technology. That basically you have this double coexistence of the two technologies, meaning that thanks to what we call combo boards, you both have your GPON customers and you can add XGS-PON customers. They are not interfering with each other. So it's easy way to have this rollout. And we're investing in these networks. We already deployed in several countries. We have France, we have Spain, starting also with Poland as well. And so for sure, by 2030, XGS-PON and 10 gig technology will be something that will be, I mean, the basics, probably will be the basics. Now, what for? That's the key point. Of course, you find some plans, and especially in Europe, at a very flat rate. I mean, for almost nothing more than what you can have with GPON. You can have XGS-PON or the 10 gig experience for maybe 5 or 10 euros more to pay per month. So it's not that much. And it's usually more used by heavy users or very extreme users. But considering the mass market, I mean that's not really that important. Actually, having 1 gig at home is already a lot. And when we are looking at the usage of our network, I mean, we are far from filling up everything with the GPON technology. Let's consider that the FTTH customers, the growth of traffic for already existing FTTH customers is around 10% per year, a bit less than that. So, I mean, moving to 10 gig is not, I mean, that's not an emergency. Anyway, we still are doing that because there are some extreme part of the customers that require that. But on the other side, there is that's the consumer part. And then on the other side, you have the operator part. And on the operator, deploying 10 gig technology and especially XGS-PON technology on top of GPON is interesting because it helps us in terms of capacity. Because if you consider that your PON trees will be more and more full of customers, considering that by 2030, for instance, in France, we will shut down the copper local loop, meaning that all these customers will move to the optical local loop. So it's more customers on the same fiber point to multi-point fiber. So, of course, having XGS-PON on top of GPON will help to tackle this additional traffic. But it also offers another interest in terms of energy consumption, in terms of capex management. It's that we can also increase the split ratio, meaning that with GPON, we usually have a 1:64 split ratio from point to multi-point PON trees. Thanks to XGS-PON technology, we can move from 1 to 128 ONUs per PON tree, meaning that for the same number of active ports on our OLTs, we can have twice customers connected. So it helps us in terms of capex, it helps us in terms of energy consumption, it helps us in terms of carbon footprint.
Thank you very much, very insightful. Paul, when we did the preparation call, we have debated about the topics that Eurofiber and especially you could cover in this panel, and you directly directed me to this very important ESG topic. So can you please give us some examples how ESG principles are embedded into day-to-day activities of Eurofiber?
I think ESG for Eurofiber is very natural. It's very close to the heart of our company. I mean, we held a poll through all of the people and say, you know, what is it really, what makes you proud to work at Eurofiber? What is it that we should really do more of in the future? And overwhelmingly, that came back to you have to do more, or we have to do, we want to do more on ESG. And ESG is moving into a new phase, the way that I see it. In my company, we have already for a long time 100% green power. We have, since the beginning of 2022, we said only fully electric cars are allowed. Next year, the last car on petrol or diesel is going to leave our company, and we will completely be electric cars only. We have had our financing, latest financing round is ESG based, so the interest rate is depending on the ESG rates. So we're really putting our money where our mouth is. We have EcoVadis gold standard. We are one of 85 companies in the world now with the SBTi approval. We've been, my colleague here in the room here, whereas, you know, we were co-leader with the ITU on the digital green action in COP28. So ESG is close to our heart, and because it's close to our heart and to of our personnel, we are really taking this seriously, and we are making a lot of steps. So the things that I mentioned first, if you look at SBTi, so the Science-Based Target Initiative, you have this scope 1, 2, and 3. I think that most of you will know. You know, scope 1 is really what you own and control, influence the greenhouse effects thereof. Scope 2 is where, you know, the energy that you buy, and scope 3 is in the whole chain that you cannot control. So that's the difficult one. We've made so much progress already on scope 1 and 2. Interestingly now, 3% of the greenhouse emissions that we have in our company is now scope 1 and 2 because we've done so much, which makes scope 3, which is extremely difficult because you need all the partners for it, now the key focus of our company to work on scope 3. And that is a big challenge, and we're doing that together with our suppliers and with our partners. We are signing agreements with them. We say, this is our goal, do you commit to our goal? And if you disagree with us, let's discuss that. We will have a joint goal, and then we sign an agreement to reach that. So it's no longer anymore about, shall we do it? It's exactly, when are we going to do it, and how are we going to do it? And the when is very well detailed. You know, within our company rules, we've set these goals very clearly, and our partners are agreeing with it. But there is another subject of ESG, and that's called circularity. So while ESG is a lot about, you know, your greenhouse gas emissions reduction, circularity is about materials. And the use of materials in the telecoms business, we use a lot of plastic-based, i.e. oil-based products. So to become circular in our industry is again, and that's related, you know, you can see the analogy with scope 3, is a very difficult thing to do, and 100% certain, by definition, we cannot do it on our own. So this is really something as an industry that we need to work on to become a circular industry. And we believe that's an important goal to go after and to fight for. Also here in the Fibre to the Home Council, we chair the Sustainability Committee. We are making, I think, very good progress. We are also here in the Fibre to the Home Council, but we're doing that in other associations as well. We have focused on the environmental product declarations, and we're making good progress now. We now have calculation rules so that companies can calculate the life cycle assessments, so the LCAs and EPDs, and move forward from that. So we're making progress. Scope 3 and circularity are the difficult things to go after, and I hope that all of us will really take this seriously and cooperate, because that's the only way that we can get anywhere. So that's what I want to say about ESG.
Yeah, thank you. Looks like that you're the real ESG champion. Tamira, you presented your research into the liquid society, and this is talking about consumer behavior into the future. So can you maybe give us some examples how these changes will have an impact into maybe usage of fiber products or services?
Certainly. Back to actually the megatrend framework and really understanding the the demographic and societal shifts that are going on at the moment. If we look ahead, because we have a couple of these, we can actually we can measure more or less. Urbanization in Europe is currently around 40%. Going to its 2050, it's estimated that it will be around 80%.
Coffee.
It's cocktail time.
Please ignore this. It's not bad.
Cocktails later.
Cocktail is later. You still have to stay for about 10 more minutes, let's say. Yeah?
It's a
Please
tough
continue.
competition, I'd say. So if we're looking towards 2050, urbanization is estimated to be about 80% within Europe. So what will that actually mean in terms of how we are leading our lives? Will it be more dense areas, more spread out areas? How are we going to move around? And what will that also mean in terms of interconnections, smart cities like we talked about? How are we going to, be connected at home and then move around and be connected elsewhere? How are we going to socialize? If you then couple that with the urbanization with another demographic, which is rising single households. We have seen a rise of single households within Europe since 2009 until 2022. That was 30%. So more and more of us actually living on our own without children. Now, what is that then going to mean in terms of, how we will actually be maybe socializing online? You mentioned the increase in videos and gaming, and these are some of the things that require a lot of good, stable and fast connection. So will we be leading more and more online lives, which is already an indication? Then if you couple that with another demographic, which is aging population, we will see, again, going ahead to 2050, that 1 in 4 of us will be above 65. What in terms of digital literacy, and how we will actually need to have health at home and have all these digital services related to health issues because of an aging population. So we can actually really use a lot of these understandings of shifts in society to understand what potential expectations and demands might be. And just one final point, which is really also related to the whole liquid society, is also, we saw that already in terms of the pandemic and remote work. We're really seeing an increasing need to be able to work in hybrid ways or in different locations, either at home or at our workplace or even in our cottage in a rural area or on our boat. So these ways of actually moving around, which is the fluidity and the liquidity of this future society we're analyzing and exploring, is really about that we don't care whether it's fiber or 6G, I'm sorry to say. We just care that we can be connected and that it's working and that we can either be doing our work properly or that we can be socializing or playing video games.
Thank you very much. So looking at the time budget, we have prepared for a second round of questions, but I would like to maybe give the opportunity to you to ask some questions to the panel participants. So I think we have a microphone if somebody would have a question. And please raise your hand or stand up. Everything clear? No questions about how our markets look like? You will have these experts in front of you. Maybe I can then ask a question and I formulate it open. So please answer if you like to answer. What are the biggest challenges that we will face looking into 2030 in terms of getting to kind of full fiber coverage in Europe, having all these adoption targets fulfilled, having the kind of rollout targets fulfilled. So what are the biggest obstacles that we should overcome? Who wants to take this? Gilles?
There is an obvious answer, is to make money with the network. And the biggest challenge is to have the money.
Ladies and gentlemen, that reception is now starting in the exhibition halls 25 and 1.2.
5 minutes.
5 more minutes for cocktails are served.
So basically, that's how to make money to invest. The question of fiber rollout and deployment is a question of money, a question of high capex. It's highly capex intensive. So if you want companies to invest, you must make money with that network. And so that's the biggest challenge in Europe right now. I mean, for us, for Orange, which is number one fiber operator in Europe, that's a big challenge. How to justify to our investors to make so much money in a network if at the end you have such a tough competition, so many difficulties to merge two operators and to try to manage that and to make some money with that when you have EU, I'm sorry, and what you have EU regulation that prevent you to do that. So that's for us a really tough challenge.
Okay, thank you. Elisabeth, you would like to say something?
Yes, I think from a research perspective, I think one of the big challenges is really to develop technological solutions and services which actually meet all the very pressing demands. So building on what Gilles has just said, of course, one of the key aspects is sustainability, but sustainability meaning not only from a greening perspective, but also economic sustainability. When obviously those who are developing the technology, but also those who are then deploying networks, of course, would like to make it profitable. So how to develop through research activities a technology that actually will ultimately lead to services and efficient deployments which will improve the current financial situation of, I would say, at large, the connectivity sector. On the other hand, you have more the societal aspects. Yeah. We expect that 6G will be a ubiquitously available technology to everyone on the globe. And in order to achieve that, ultimately, it will have to be affordable. And of course, then we want it to be an energy efficient, but at the same time, transfer enormously high data rates at a very low latency, do the sensing, integrate the AI. So I think these are all objectives which are pulling into somewhat different directions. And I think from a research and innovation perspective, a key challenge will be to find solutions which more or less will actually somehow kind of herd all these objectives in a similar or at least the same direction, or indeed take then hard decisions on what is it that you will let go of or focus less on.
Gabriel, may I ask the consultant, do you have a secret business model that will solve all these issues about monetization and kind of making money with those fiber lines? This is the moment to give us the clue.
Probably not the solution itself, but at least an answer that I can give that starts with, it depends. Because in my opinion, it really is different in which market environment you're currently playing. Because even within Europe, there are huge differences in terms of, I'm coming from the Austrian market, we are nowhere close to having fiber rolled out everywhere. rather the opposite. So for us, the challenges are completely different than for other markets that are much more ahead of us. So I think the challenge is different on the market that you're in, and the solution to that is then to be flexible, to understand the business model that actually suits the market that you're in, whether that's going in a direction of consolidation, whether that's already a lot of rollout has been performed and competition is moving from an infrastructure level to a ISP level, or whether the topic is still around land grabbing. So depending where you are, different challenges, different solutions.
So the answer is it depends. That's the typical consultant
yes.
answer, right? So if I look at the clock, we are ending. Any final statements from
Yeah, maybe
panelists?
if I can add one more thing for 2030 that is really about security of networks, and it's more in the B2B sector, prominently available than in the consumer sector. But if you hear people talking about AI, you always say and quantum. They will say quantum will kill all encryption. And we are taking absolutely the opposite point of view here. Quantum, you have to invest now, because if indeed it will at one day, all the software-based security that we believe that we have in the networks, application-based security and software-based security, if that's all being killed easily by AI and quantum computing, make sure you're in quantum yourself. Because quantum key distribution, that's something that we invest in quite a lot with partner Juniper Networks and Qbert. That is the way to go to secure your future. But you have to understand it's a difficult subject, so get into it now. We have in one of our data centers, we have a live quantum demo, and we invite customers and people to come along and say, play with it, see what this really is, and be prepared, for 2030 when, there's a lot more of quantum already available at that point in time.
Thank you very much. I think it's a good ending word. Thank you very much, Tamira, Paul, Gilles, Elsebeth, and Gabriel, for your insightful kind of presentations, insightful answers to these very important questions about how are these markets structured in 2030. And pardon me, Gilles, I will probably take one claim of Orange and adapt it a bit. So I would say the future is bright, the future is fiber. So thank you very much for your attention and have a good cocktail reception.